talking about gifts and their role in human relationships. There are some interesting cases when one thinks of the feelings that recipients have upon receiving gifts, the feeling of indebtedness. There are these fascinating cases where sometimes the recipients realize that they have no other opportunity to return the favor, and they have to actually do something immediately upon receiving the gift. And it is interesting that, you know, when it comes to receiving gifts, women are more appreciative than men. Women are more expressive than men. You know, Sometimes they realize that there will be no opportunity for returning the favor to the giver. And women can start by clapping their hands. They can actually break into song. They can actually dance, take to the floor, and start making dance moves. They can actually be ululating. They can celebrate it. Sometimes it's not something so big that it's worth the singing, the ululation, the dancing. But because they are so expressive and they want to show their appreciation immediately, they do these dances, they sing, they ululate, they clap their hands. They can put up an act. Sometimes it will be pretentious, it may be exaggerated, but they'll be celebrating the fact that they have been given something and showing their appreciation. And depending on the size and value of that gift, sometimes this whole thing backfires on the giver. They begin to wonder if the women, if the recipients would be celebrating just that small gift, or if there could be something behind it. And somehow the giver will begin to feel, you know, indebted because the appreciation would actually outstrip the value of the gift itself. So that sometimes they, as givers, develop this feeling that maybe they should have given them something more valuable, something bigger. And they begin to think of what other alternative presents they should have considered, they should have brought, they should have given these recipients. So the recipients would have turned the tables over to the giver. And the giver is the one who is now feeling humbled by the reception of the recipients. And they begin to think, well, maybe they should have done this more often, or maybe they should up the game and consider bigger gifts, more valuable gifts, and more regularly. Somehow they are thrown into confusion. And They are the ones that then begin to feel like debtors who are indebted to the recipients. And the recipients would have converted themselves into creditors immediately upon receiving the present from the giver. So these things can actually turn around all of a sudden. And the giver and the recipient switch sides. The giver becomes the debtor, and the recipient assumes the role of the creditor. And the creditor will have to, crack their head and try and think of ways of maybe, balancing this relationship, rebalancing it, because it would have been tilted back in favor of the recipients, away from the giver. And that's a problem that can arise in instances where people really celebrate and give a great reception to the presents that they would have been given, to such an extent that the giver feels that he or she doesn't deserve that kind of appreciation, that magnitude of celebration, because when they compare the value and the size of the present with the intensity of the appreciation, they then feel that it's no longer a level playing field. There's been a disruption, a counter disruption, and the power distance has actually shifted, in favor of the recipients. And they, as the givers, will begin to feel that they owe their recipients more than what they would have brought them. So sometimes these situations can actually all of a sudden change because of the reception that would have been given by the recipients, and they will no longer owe the giver anything else, but instead the giver will go back feeling that they have to do something more, something bigger, or to do something more regularly, more frequently, in order to match the kind of reception that they would have been accorded